I lost the baby. But what he did next made me wish I had died with it. I was still bleeding when he screamed, "You never wanted this baby. You did this on purpose." His mother looked me in the eye and said, "You're just jealous your sister-in-law is pregnant." Then, they held me down, and he kicked me. I couldn't scream. I left that night. No one saw me crawl out, covered in blood and silence. 2 years later, he saw me again. If you want the truth, stay till the end. Subscribe and turn on the bell. You don't want to miss this. 2 months before I lost the baby, I was already losing pieces of myself. He stopped coming home early. He used to wait for me at the door, touch my stomach, kiss my forehead like I was something sacred. Now, the door stayed locked until midnight. No explanation, no apology, just silence, or worse, irritation. If I asked where he'd been, he'd sigh, like my curiosity was exhausting. He'd say things like, "Why are you always so needy? Not everything's about you." Or the one that started echoing in my nightmares. "You're too emotional for someone carrying my child." His mother moved in, just to help. That's what he told me. But she didn't come to help. She came to control. She criticized everything. The way I walked, the way I talked, how I kept the house, even how I breathed. One morning I made tea. She took one sip and spat it out like I'd poisoned her. Said the baby would be cursed if I kept feeding it bitterness. Then she whispered loud enough for me to hear. Maybe that's what she wants. Maybe she doesn't want this baby. I laughed it off at first, but then I saw the way he looked at me. Like, maybe he believed her. He stopped standing up for me, stopped defending me, stopped loving me. When she called me a burden, he didn't flinch. When she said I had a jealous soul, he agreed. When she accused me of being envious of my sister-in-law, who was also pregnant, he nodded, didn't say a word in my defense. He'd leave me at home while they went shopping for baby clothes, not for our child, for hers. His sister-in-law. His smile looked different around her. Softer. Warmer. Sometimes I'd walk into the room and they'd go quiet. She'd laugh and say, "We were just talking about how lucky my baby is." No stress. Just love. I didn't know if it was in my head, if I was imagining it, or if something unspoken was happening between them. But the way his eyes lingered on her stomach longer than mine, I felt invisible. He started sleeping on the couch, said the bed made his back hurt. I stopped asking questions, because every question turned into a fight, and every fight ended with me crying, alone. He said I was making everything about me, that I was too sensitive, that I was creating problems to get attention. He said if I kept acting this way, he might not want to be a father at all. So I tried harder. I got quieter, more obedient, more pleasant. I apologized for things I didn't do. I tried to make peace with a woman who looked at me like I was cursed. I smiled through insults, cooked dinner with swollen feet. I did everything they asked, and still, it wasn't enough. One night, I found his phone buzzing, a message from an unknown number. It said, "Thanks for last night. She has no idea, does she?" I didn't say a word. I just stared at the screen. The phone slipped from my hand. He heard it crash, walked in, and looked at me like I was the problem, like I was invading his privacy. He didn't deny it, didn't explain. He just said, "You're always looking for reasons to play the victim." That's when I started to believe maybe I was. Maybe it really was all my fault. Maybe I was broken, unworthy, jealous, unfit. He made me question everything, even my own pain. His mother would watch me cry and smirk. Sometimes she'd say, "You should be grateful. He could have married someone stronger." And slowly, I began to believe them. I stopped talking to my friends, stopped picking up calls, stopped writing in my journal. I didn't even recognize my own voice anymore. I became quiet and small and scared. I began to question if I was even human anymore. It started as a cramp, just a small, twisting pressure low in my stomach. I told myself it was normal. That pain is part of pregnancy. That maybe the baby was just stretching. But the pain kept building, from the inside out. A deep, dragging ache like something was pulling away from me. I called out to him. He was in the living room, scrolling through his phone. He didn't answer the first time, didn't move the second. The third time, he sighed and walked over like I was interrupting something more important. I told him, "Something's wrong. It hurts. I think—" He cut me off. "You're always thinking something's wrong. You're fine." I reached for his hand. He pulled it away. I tried to stand. A wave of heat rushed through me. My legs shook. I collapsed to my knees and felt something wet. Not sweat. Not normal. I looked down. Blood. It was spreading fast. I begged, "Please, please help me. I think I'm losing the baby." But he didn't look afraid. He didn't even look concerned. He looked angry. "So what now? You're going to blame me for this too?" I stared at him, blinking back tears. He stepped closer. "You never wanted this baby. You've been acting like a victim since day one." I could barely breathe. "That's not true." He turned his head and yelled down the hallway, "Mom, come see what she's done now." She shuffled in like she'd been waiting for her moment. She looked at me, then the blood, then said coldly, "I told you she was jealous. She couldn't stand watching your sister-in-law carry a child." I was on the floor, bleeding, gasping. I said, "Please help me. I need to go to the hospital." She shook her head. "You brought this on yourself." Then he grabbed my arm, hard, lifted me halfway off the floor. I screamed in pain. He dropped me, kicked the wall, then kicked again. But this time, not the wall. Me. "You're just trying to get sympathy," he spat. "You're disgusting." They stood over me, my vision blurred. I reached for my phone on the table. He grabbed it first and tossed it across the room. My body was cold, shaking. I felt myself slipping. Not just physically, but emotionally. Like I was watching my soul leave the room. I stopped begging. There was no one left to beg to. When they walked away, arguing with each other about cleaning up the mess, I knew what I had to do. I waited until the house got quiet, until the blood dried beneath me, until I could move without blacking out. I crawled out of the bedroom, down the stairs, past the kitchen, to the door. They forgot to lock it. I didn't take shoes. I didn't take a bag. Just one hand on my stomach, the other pressed to the wall to stay upright. I walked into the night, barefoot, bleeding, alone. I made it to the corner of the street before I collapsed again. Someone found me, an old man walking his dog. I don't remember his face, only the sound of his voice, kind, afraid, and the warmth of a blanket he wrapped around me, and sirens. At the hospital, the doctor told me what I already knew. The baby was gone. Too much blood. Too much trauma. Too late. He asked me, "What happened to you?" I couldn't answer, because I didn't even know where to start. They asked if someone had done this to me. I said no, because I was afraid of what he'd do, of what she'd say, of what the world would think. I told them I fell, and they nodded, like they'd heard that lie before. They kept me at the hospital for 2 days. The nurses were kind. Too kind. They spoke in soft voices as if I might shatter with any sudden sound. They asked if I had someone to call, a friend, a family member, a husband. I said no, over and over. No. They looked at me with pity. But pity doesn't warm you at night. It doesn't undo what's been done. It doesn't bring a baby back. They handed me a discharge form, a prescription, and a pamphlet on grief. I stared at it blankly. then folded it up and shoved it in my bag. I didn't want medication. I didn't want comfort. I didn't want to feel better. I wanted to vanish. So I did. I walked out of the hospital with no plan, no destination. Just an old hoodie someone left behind in the waiting room, and a body that didn't feel like mine anymore. I boarded a bus without asking where it was going. I gave the driver cash and sat in the very back, next to the window. The glass was cold against my face. It felt more real than anything else. Every mile we drove, a piece of that house peeled off my skin. His voice faded, her lies crumbled. But the grief stayed. It clung to my ribs, heavy, relentless. I stared at the road signs. I didn't recognize the names. That comforted me. I didn't want familiar. Familiar hurt. Familiar broke me. I got off in a small town no one talks about. The kind with one diner, one gas station, and a few motels no one checks into for more than a night. I chose the cheapest one. Paid cash. No ID. No questions. Room 6. The curtains were thin. The mattress sagged in the middle. The wallpaper peeled at the corners. But the silence? The silence was beautiful. No yelling, no footsteps stomping down the hall. No mother-in-law watching me with venom in her eyes. No him. I didn't cry that night. I didn't scream. I didn't speak. I just laid there, hand on my stomach, instinctively, forgetting for one moment that there was nothing left to feel. I drifted in and out of sleep, dreamed of water, of drowning and floating at the same time, of a child I never met, reaching for me. The next morning I walked to the diner across the street, ordered toast and tea. My voice cracked when I spoke. The waitress didn't ask why. That's why I stayed. People here didn't dig too deep, didn't demand answers I wasn't ready to give. I got a job cleaning rooms at another motel on the edge of town, paid under the table. No one asked for a name. I gave one anyway, a fake one, something simple, forgettable. Weeks passed, then months. The bruises faded, the scars stayed. But something strange happened. I started breathing again. Not just surviving, breathing. I planted flowers outside my window, got a library card, found a thrift store coat that made me feel almost human again. Sometimes I'd look in the mirror and not recognize myself. But for the first time, I didn't flinch. I still didn't tell anyone. Not my family, not my friends, not even the old coworker who messaged once asking if I was okay. I left that version of me behind. She died the night I lost the baby. I didn't owe anyone an explanation. Let them wonder. Let him wonder. Let them think I disappeared for good. Because in a way, I did. I buried her. The girl who begged for love, who bent until she broke, who believed apologies that were never spoken. And in her place, something colder grew, calmer, quieter. Not healed, not whole, but aware. Dangerously aware, and waiting. 2 years later, he saw me, and he didn't recognize me. Not at first. I was standing in line at the bank. Simple, ordinary, hair tied back, dark sunglasses, neat coat, no trace of who I used to be. He was ahead of me, leaning on the counter, talking too loud, same voice, same arrogance, but a little more tired around the edges. I saw the back of his head first, then his profile. It hit me like a wave I wasn't ready for. Not fear, not grief, not pain, stillness. Cold and clean, like winter air in your lungs. The kind that doesn't shake you. It wakes you. He turned slightly, and our eyes met. Only for a second. He stared, brows furrowed, then looked away, like I was a stranger. That's when I knew. He didn't see me. Not the me I used to be. Not the woman he kicked, humiliated, erased. Because that woman no longer existed. He saw what I'd become, and it scared him. Even if he didn't know why. I walked past him as he exited, brushed his shoulder. He turned again. this time slower. "Do I know you?" he asked. I smiled, tilted my head. "No, but I know you." And I walked away. I didn't look back. Not because I was trying to be dramatic, but because I didn't need to. 2 years ago, I crawled away from that house like a ghost. Today, I walk streets he can't touch, rooms he'll never be invited into, circles where his name means nothing. I've rebuilt, quietly, patiently. I changed my name legally 6 months after disappearing. Started therapy. Started over. I rented a tiny apartment and took night classes. I studied, financial literacy, digital marketing, trauma recovery, coding, legal documentation. Every course was a weapon in disguise, every certification a brick in the fortress I was building. I didn't want revenge. Not at first. I just wanted peace. But peace, I learned, isn't given. It's earned. And sometimes, it's taken back. I built a business. Started online, small. Now I employ 3 people. All women. All survivors. Our office is in a converted house. Every room has sunlight and a lock on the door. Everyone gets a key. I donate anonymously to shelters. Sometimes I volunteer, but not where they'd ever find me. I keep my past in a journal I never open. The pages are stained but quiet. Until now. Seeing him cracked something open. Not in a painful way, in a necessary way. Like waking up from a long, cold sleep. I went home that night and reread every page I had once written. The blood, the lies, the silence, the screams I had to swallow. It wasn't justice I wanted. Not the courtroom kind. Not the handcuffs kind. I wanted truth, exposure. Not for the world, not for pity, but for him, for her. For the people who still believed their version of me. The fragile wife, the jealous woman, the weak girl who ran away. I didn't run. I survived. And now I'm coming back. Not to knock on the door, not to beg for acknowledgement, but to haunt. To remind, to reveal. He thinks I disappeared. He thinks he got away with it. They both do. But the thing about vanishing? Sometimes we come back sharper, darker, unrecognizable. Sometimes we don't come back to be seen. We come back to be remembered. I didn't raise my hand. I raised myself. 2 years of silence wasn't weakness. It was preparation. I didn't come back to break him. I came back to build myself. The first move wasn't loud. It wasn't a confrontation. It was quiet, surgical. I found out he had a child. Not with me, not with the sister-in-law. Another woman, months after I disappeared. The child was a secret. He kept it hidden, like everything else. I reached out quietly. No threats, no accusations, only truth. I offered her help, legal advice, emotional support, financial aid. She said yes. Together, we went to court. I represented her. Because I know what it feels like to have your voice silenced. I know what it's like to be gaslit, ignored, and erased. The judge listened. The truth unfolded. He lost custody. He lost control. Then I bought the house next door. Not to taunt, not to threaten, but to reclaim my space. The house where I once heard his cruel words. The place where I was powerless. Now it was mine. Every morning I walk past it, knowing he can see me. Successful, strong, unbreakable. He called once, begged for a meeting, said he wanted to make things right. I told him, it's too late for apologies. The power dynamic shifted, and it was not mercy I felt, but calm. Because revenge isn't about chaos. It's about control. It's about knowing your worth, your strength, and refusing to be anyone's victim again. I don't want him to suffer. I want him to understand that I survived, that I thrived, that I rose. I didn't raise my hand. I raised myself. And that is the greatest revenge of all. I thought breaking was the end. But it was how I was reborn. For so long, I believed pain meant weakness. that falling apart meant I was less than, that losing the baby, losing myself, meant I was broken beyond repair. But pain is not a prison. It's a teacher, a mirror, a beginning. The nights I spent alone, bleeding and scared, the silent tears, the endless questions, they did not destroy me. They peeled away the layers I didn't need, the false hope, the toxic love, the lies I told myself to survive another day. I learned that strength isn't loud, it's quiet. It's the whisper inside that says, I'm still here. It's the courage to get up when your body and heart scream to stay down. I want every woman watching this to know this. You are not alone. Your story matters. Your pain is valid. But your power, that is something no one can take from you. If you've ever felt trapped by someone's cruelty, by the silence around you, by the weight of your own fears, I see you. I hear you. And I promise, there is light on the other side. Healing isn't a straight line. It's messy. It's confusing. It's sometimes slow. But it is possible. You can rebuild. You can rise. You can be more than your scars. This is not just a story about betrayal or revenge. It's a story about survival, about reclaiming your voice, about choosing yourself, even when it feels impossible. If you're here, watching this, know that your past does not define your future. You have the power to write your next chapter, and I hope my story gives you the courage to start yours. Thank you for listening. If this story touched you, please subscribe and turn on notifications. There are more stories here, real, raw, and realigned with hope. You're not alone on this journey. Let's walk it together,